Hello. Welcome back, friends and comrades. Welcome back to Anti Imperialist America. I'm your host, Dust James, the Marxist Leninist truck driver. Come you live from rural North Carolina. We got a good show for you tonight. I was able to attend two demonstrations in DC this Saturday. The Black People's March on Washington, hosted by the Black is Back Coalition, is well in what has become the largest pro-Palestinian demonstration in U.S. history. Over 300,000 people attended. And I was able to meet my good friend Musa there, who was also in attendance at the Black People's March on Washington. Let's see. How you doing, brother?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. Tired, but I'm still wonderful. It was so great and wonderful to be in DC with such good comrades. It was just the energy that was there. And might I want to add this, despite what people are saying, we were 300,000 strong, and that was the largest pro-Palestinian protest in the history of this country. 300,000 people marched in DC. It was historic.
Let's see. Okay. We're having issues with an echo. I have to mute him whenever I speak, and he'll go back. I guess if I think I'll just give a little bit of background, and then I'll have you give a report back on the first demonstration, and some thoughts on the second demonstration. Then I'll respond. As far as background, like I said, there was two demonstrations that we both attended, and the first one, which was a smaller, smaller one with the more dedicated, I think more dedicated people that have been doing it a little bit longer. Actually, some people with more radical politics as well, and that's the Black is Back Coalition, and in particular, who led the stride with that was the Huru movement, and the chairman, O'Malley, is the chair of both the Black is Back as well as the Huru movement, and I think that was a great demonstration as well. They did it on the same day, and the Black is Back coalition actually has theirs first, and they felt a little bit slighted, rightfully slighted by that, and that's completely understandable. Why they would, but I think they were both positive demonstrations, and I was privileged to attend both. I'm gonna kick it over to Brother Musa and see what he got to say about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, and I think we talked about this briefly earlier this week about contradictions, so the Black is Back Coalition March, they do that every year, and they have done it for the past 15 years. Um, and members of the PSL and the Answer Coalition were both allowed to, were asked basically to speak. Um, and they've been asking PSL and the Answer Coalition to speak for years. As you know, I work on the staff of um, the Burning Spirit, which is the mouthpiece, the newspaper, the print media company for the Uhuru and the Back is Black Coalition, um, you know, movements. And
I just I didn't know. I thought Burning Spear was just the Hulu movement.
well, yeah, I mean it is Uhuru, but Black is Black Coalition. I feel like we've had some coverage of previous marches, because like I said, the Uhuru movement chairman. But before I get into the whole PSL thing, I would really like to talk about what was the reason behind the march. So last year, the FBI and the government raided the Uhuru House in I think in St. Louis and in Petersburg. They arrested three of our Uhuru members. Arrested three of the Uhuru members, including Chairman O'Malley Chattel, and Patty Hearst. I think it's Penny Hearst and what is his name? Oh, and
Jesse.
and Jesse, yes, Jesse Neville. So they were arrested, and what they were charged with, I think, is even the biggest part of the crime. They were charged with uh, being agents of a foreign government, um, for a rally or for a conference that they had, that they were attending. Um, and anytime, anytime the anytime any organization speaks out and stands up against imperialism and colonization, um, this is the new norm. You know what I mean? And so that's really what the march was about. We're calling to drop all the charges. We're saying that we want hands off Uhuru. And we basically are calling this is a black led free speech movement, and that's what we were all pushing, both on the media platform and in just the march in general. That was the messaging. This is what our list of demands were, and this is what we're asking for.
Yeah, I think you got it right, brother. The maybe anything I can add to it. Um, yeah, they raid. I remember seeing it, and it was harsh, man. They broke in. I think they used battering rams at the place. They lied to one of them to get him out of the house. All three of the members of this organization under black leadership are facing 15 years. I really love Jesse's speech, who is one of the leaders within the white solidarity um, part of the Uhuru movement, which is completely under black leadership. And he said no white man in the United States ever got any convictions for lynching a single black man. And it happened in the thousands and the thousands in public display in this country where black folks are an oppressed, colonized people within the United States. I loved all the testimony was beautiful and inspiring. It was a privilege to come. Other members, I remember seeing Kwame Toure's legacy group there. I remember there was members of the Black Alliance for Peace. I want to one of my favorite speakers, Jackie Lukeman, gave a phenomenal speech representing Black Alliance for Peace, and I think it was a beautiful, smaller gathering of more dedicated and honestly more principled folks that understand on a deeper level about national oppression and how to deal with that national oppression. And it's beautiful. They do it every year. I'm thinking about going back every year myself to support them. Not only when hopefully they drop the FBI charges, and I'm definitely going to stand behind that, but hopefully I'll keep going. They've been doing this since the 70s. And I know, popular movements, protest movements come and go in this country. Like we were out there in force during the Bush years and that we didn't end the war. We were out there in force Saturday and they're going to continue the occupation. But I think um, the chairman said it best when he said he won a protest organization. They're building power and doing it in the communities. And I think we got to get past movementism and we actually have to build community. And that's the way to do it. Because the one is leading is largely is one of the most dedicated organizations within the Black community that is building power within the Black community. Also, I saw a lot of working class Black folks there that were, that they provided infrastructure and brought working people in to be part of the demonstration. And I thought it was really beautiful. Go ahead and respond, brother.
We also had the I forget the name of the Chicano organization that was there. You know what I'm
Union de
talking about?
Barrio.
Yeah, the Barrio. Another organization that I absolutely love. Um, they do a lot of great work out in California and LA. And that's another thing too. I want to add to. Not only did we have the protest in DC, but we were in LA, London, South Africa, Liberia. Uh, we had protests all across the country. I mean, all across the world at the same time, simultaneously. We are all having the rally and demonstrations at the same time. So that's again powerful. But I think what you said is important. And what you say or what you have said, I get in trouble for. I get called provocative and a bad agent for saying that we need to get past movements. We need to get past just being online activism. I get thrown out of groups because they consider that to be oh, I'm being a protagonist, and I'm being disrespectful for those for saying that. You know what I mean? But I've always preached that in order for you to build any kind of movement, organization, power, you got to give the people structure. You have to give them something to do besides just protesting, because we cannot expect our issues just to be protested away. I am an activist, and I'm an activist true and true. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I've been arrested over a dozen times, and I understand the power of protesting. You know what I mean? I get it. I love direct actions. I love being out there. I love taking the streets. I love, showing the force. And I talk to you about, our, so I come from the generation of the Occupy generation, and our forefathers and our predecessors are people that were protesting in Seattle and in the RNC. You know what I mean? And their protests and those their ancestors are the civil rights people. You know what I mean? And we've been doing this for people have been doing this for 40 and 50 years, and it shows that a protest without infrastructure, without purpose, without leadership it's nothing. It's to what end? To what end are we going to continue to march and demand? You know what? To what end are we going to continue to just protest? We did it in 2020. We did it in 2011. We did it in 2015. We did it in 2014 for Eric Gardner and for Freddie Gray. We did it for you know we did it for Mike Brown. You know what I mean? Ferguson. Like, to what end? You know what I mean? It's like, without building structure, without having a purpose, without having leadership, you know, it's just a great action. You know what I mean? It's just a show of force. You know what I mean? There's nothing behind it. It's like a pump fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I don't know who said this. Maybe someone around the Panthers or something. They said that a demonstration is just to show both the people and the enemy, how much power you got. But if you just call random people out and all you do is protest, and you're not even demonstrating no power, there ain't nothing behind what you're showing out in the streets. What is it? I mean, if you look in the history of the United States, probably the only time we had power, workers had power, at least to an extent, was when the Communist Party had hundreds of thousands of members, and they had millions of people organized in labor unions, tenants unions, unemployed councils, and then even then, and that's how we got some of those concessions in the New Deal period. But even those concessions in the New Deal period weren't given to indigenous people, and black folks were largely left out of those concessions that basically communist organization fought to get, and we went ahead without doing that.
And not only that, even when the Communist Party was at its prime and in the 1940s and 1930s, they had these protests, they had these demonstrations, but they had calls of action, and that's what it was. They were in the communities, they were knocking doors, they were feeding people. If you were unemployed and not being able to take care of themselves, the unemployment group that they had there would help you get on your feet, would pay your rent. You know what I mean? And that's what endeared people to the CPUSA in its prime. That's what made people come and join the CPUSA, not because they were marching, but because they would pay your rent. They would help you put food on your table. They fed people. That is communism at its core. Communism is the radical idea of sharing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the Panthers carried that on, built power and shared the infrastructure.
Yeah, and so if the CPUSA was just out there demonstrating and marching and protesting, they wouldn't have had 100,000. They would have had a nice number of people, but then what? Because people eventually get tired of going to marches. People get tired of just marching down the street and showing the force. We want to see it. We want to see it in action. I want these activists to put their money where their mouth is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, bro. Like I said, the Panthers fed people, had the breakfast program, poor white folks, Puerto Ricans. I think there was an Asian organization, Yellow Peril.
Yellow Peril.
And then the federal government got so scared. Not only were they mass murdered, but the Panthers forced them to have a federal free breakfast program. And I was able to eat in school partly from the power building and the fear that the Panthers put into the imperialist government. That's that's deep respect for the Panthers.
Yeah. So I just feel like like I said, I tell people that it's great to be a communist. It's a great day. It's great to have the scientific and studying of it. But if you don't put it to action, it's just theory, and it's not. It's not. It's nothing. I mean, that's not nothing, but it's knowledge that's not being used. Because if you have the knowledge, you may have 1,000 Stalin books, you may know all of the quotes from Lenin, but if you're not using the knowledge there, if you're not using the stuff that you learned in the Communist Manifesto and in Mao's Little Red Book, then what's it for? You know what I mean? But again, it was a great demonstration. It was a great show of force. And as the Palestinian protest, like I said, was the largest pro-Palestinian protest in the United States, and it was great. We got a new nickname for Joe Biden. We're going to call him his new name is now Genocide Joe, and that's all great. And I just I feel for the people of Palestine, but I also understand that their resilience. And what I always say is, we can't stop fighting because they're not going to stop fighting. They're not stop fighting, and if they can continue to fight under those conditions that they live in, and they can continue to say, to the river, from the river to the sea. You know what I mean? If they can continue to chant "Antifada, Antifada," then we can, and we need to make our voices loud. We need to be out there, and like you said, but we also need to put stuff together that giving aid to the Palestinians, being able to send supplies and stuff like that. We need to set up those kind of infrastructures that can really, really show the people of Palestine how much solidarity we have for them.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish up on the Black People's March on Washington. And I'm a white dude in the South. I went there with my cowboy hat. Um, and when I tell people, "Hey, where you going?" "Oh, I'm going to the Black People's March on Washington," and they're like, "Oh, the Huru group," and people go to me, "What? Why are you doing that? The biggest thing going on, the Palestinian rally. What? Why are you going to that?" And they'll be like, "Uhuru, that's like a only black organization. Why are you going to that?" And it is a black led organization, and they're very specific. And their politics aren't exactly the same as mine. They have a white solidarity group that is completely under black leadership. And, that's not my organizing style. I run chat groups where I try to educate um, in a good mix of folks. Um, but mostly I focus on people in my community, which are rural workers, and I try to teach them about their own oppression and also broaden their ideas to understand anti-imperialism. And when it comes down to it, and it doesn't matter the differences, because this is a group that has been putting the work in, has been building power. First time I met Representative Uhuru was when I was giving a speech in Chicago, and one of the women there was running a doula program, or a co-birthing, a medical care, basically community medical care for the birthing of black children who die. There's high infant mortality rates in these racist hospitals.
The highest
And
the highest out of any race in America. Black babies but die three times more, are three times more likely to die at infancy than any other race.
I mean, so the Huru organization, they were under attack from the FBI for supposedly working with Russia, and they're out here trying to save black children and build infrastructure that this government is lacking in. They've built basketball courts, they've fed people, and they've educated people. People don't know what are some of the few instances of black radical politics in pop culture. They'd be Dead Prez. And not a lot. I mean, Dead Prez is known by a good portion of the population, but everybody in the Dead Prez was the rapper's favorite rapper. Back in the '90s and the 2000s, he was a huge influence. And Dead Prez came into contact and learned a lot of his politics from the Uhuru movement. And they're Garveyists. And a lot of people say, "Well, you're a communist. Why you support Garvey?" Nah. If you look at Malcolm X's parents were Garveyist. And this organizing style of black is beautiful and organized within the black community historically has had a huge consciousness, awareness, and power building and organizational might that any revolutionary in the United States, regardless of the color of the skin, to downplay the significance of the national, not only the national question, but black nationalism in general, the power of it to come up against the capitalists is doing a complete misservice to the entire movement.
I always say this: every race has benefited from the work, whether it be labor, whether it be education, whether it be civil rights, social programs. Every race of people has benefited from the work, the tireless work that black organizers, black labor organizers, black people in general have put in, even from myself and my elders, and their elders. They've put a lot of work. So even I have benefited from, them. And Garvey was such a great human being. Like he was just because he understood that in order for us to build a black led organization, we need to inspire people. We need to make them believe, and not only that, we need to put money in their pockets. We need to show them that the black dollar is important, that black finance is important, you know what I mean? And that is a way for you to build you to end your own oppression is through the economic, the building of the black economic, you know, the black dollar, and if you look at it, when black people were at their prime during the most horrible time for black people we're talking about Jim Crow South. We're talking about, but if you look at out of that, we had our own banks, we had our own schools, we had our own businesses, funeral homes, churches, barber shops, bakeries. You know, um, we had a lot of stuff. Places like Rosewood, places like um, uh, uh, places like Black Wall Street in Tulsa. But we like to look at Tulsa as a one-off, but they were a bunch of you know, black towns and black cities throughout the United States. Wilmington, North Carolina had a huge black population, had a huge black economic you know, they were huge in black economics down there. There was a bunch of black businesses. And what happened? They burned them to the ground. What happened in Rosewood? They burned it to the ground. What happened in Tulsa? They burned it to the ground. So that showed us that's what they feared. When we were able to build our own businesses, when we were able to build our own, self and build ourselves up financially, that was what they were fearing. You know what I mean? And that was what Garvey was talking about, with the Black Star Line airline. I mean, the Black Star Line, you know, uh, um, travel company that he had. He had the boats, and he wanted black people to. So I mean, it was just amazing, And like I said, the things that Garvey is doing, if we were able to maintain it, it could mean the end of poverty for black people. But we have to have the economic component.
I think you're touching on a lot. There's a deep discussion with black nationalism, black money, the suppression of even the black capitalists. Um, there's a lot of context here. I think the end of if we're gonna have to end the conversation on this and go on to the next one, I would have to say is we're gonna talk about Palestine. Is we got to stop seeing the cultural phenomena. Like I think the chairman's right when he says the way he phrases it is the main contradiction is the colonial mode of production. I'm a Marxist Leninist. To me, it's monopoly capitalism, imperialism, but we're almost saying the exact same thing. And from Comrade Stalin, if you look into the national questions, the way I see as Paul Robeson would say, the Afro American people in the United States, as a more radical Maoist would say, the new African people in the United States, as Kwame Ture would say, Africans in America. But we're all talking about the same thing, and you can't look at it as a minority question You can't look at it as a social problem of racism. It is a colonial and national question, meaning through outright terror, bombing Durham, Tulsa, the Tulsa bombings and massacres, lynching, um, going back to the black codes. You go into discrimination in criminal practices, racist judges, redlining, all of these political economic structures, and the murdering of police of black people today, 5 times more likely in the streets. It goes into a deeper question other than racism. It is that the masses of black people are an underclass that are super exploited. They're first fired, last hired, paid less likely to get benefits. If you look at black farmers, were in their hundreds of thousands in the 1920s, and now they're almost non-existent. Black farms almost non-exist because of racist practices and lending and services that were available. If you look at Willie Nelson's organization, Farm Aid, they've been pushing out. They've actually been pushing for a bill. I think the Black Farmers Justice Bill. I'm not sure what it was, but basically to protect the existing black farmers and give reparations to the black farmers that have been dispossessed and took off their land. But it has to do with a material issue, not just a social issue, but a massive group of people that's been kept in indignity for the sole profit of super extracting profits for the monopoly capitalist. Maybe you want to touch on that before we talk about the other demonstration. Still there, brother?
Yes. So we have to stop romanticizing. Um, One of the things that a lot of, I call them palm colored people like to do is they like to romanticize. They think that so they don't understand privilege. They don't understand that um, we're not in chains anymore, but there is still systems. Hashaquana McAdams McAdams. Uh, One of the things that we have to stop is we don't understand the thing of systematic racism. You know what I mean? Systematic racism is it's a real thing. You know what I mean? So we're not in chains anymore. We're not slaves. Yes, but there were systems set up that are still affecting us today, and we have to stop romanticizing it. We have to, we have to talk about it. We have to fight against these systems. You know what I mean? Because our oppression, and it kind of segues into the Palestinian, situation that's going on in Palestine. One group is oppressed, we're all oppressed. You know what I mean? If
Hmm.
if one is not free, none of us are free. We have to stop looking at oppression as, oh, they're being oppressed, so but we're not. You know what I mean? We have to look at it as we want a complete we want a complete eradication to all oppression.
Right on, brother. Right on. So let's talk about the largest pro-Palestinian demonstration in U.S. history. 300,000.
Man, so let me tell you something. I was in the midst of it all, and the energy, the uh, you know, the I was very proud. I was very proud of the people that put that together. Like I said, it was Palestinian led. It was led by predominantly Palestinian organizations. It was organized by predominantly Palestinian organizations. Yes, other organizations such as the Answer Coalition and other organizations helped push it and finance it, but it was 100% Palestinian, and it was a great demonstration. Um, just by sheer mass of 300,000 people, it's very hard to get that kind of number, uh, especially when you're not when you're talking about in Washington D.C. People have to come out and get on the bus. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. It is extremely hard to be able to accomplish that what they've accomplished in DC. And I want to tip my hat to them. I would like to give them a round of applause. Um, they did such a great job. Let's give them a round of applause.
Okay, snaps, snaps. Okay,
Yeah, because it was a great demonstration. Like, I mean, let's talk about what we saw. So, 300,000 people, Palestinian flags everywhere. People in having their scarves on. Um, it was great. I mean, it was great. It was a great. I mean, what else can I say? That it was a great demonstration. Um, they got to
all
the
right,
White
I'll
House
go into
and
my.
they put
I'll
red.
just go into my narrative of what I saw.
I'll just go into my narrative of what I saw.
I'll go ahead and there you go. So, like I said, I showed up specifically for the Black Folks March on Washington, and they put out a call. I went to that, and that ended. So I decided to go down to see the other march for Palestine. First of all, I want to talk about a little bit of something about the numbers. So those 300,000 people. Not too long ago, there was a sitting president who lied about an election, told all his supporters to come out to defend him in an election that was supposedly stolen from him, and only 80,000 people showed up. That's in comparison to 300,000 people. If that tells you about the people living in the United States and the population, about what they're interested in, a lying, racist, imperialist politician, or the absolute obvious genocide of a people, what's going to mobilize people to come out in the United States. And people are far more mobilized to defend the Palestinian people in the United States than they are to back lying, racist con men. That's a good. But I'm just going to talk about what I saw. So that march ended. I was at the White House. I started seeing Palestinian flags, and I heard noise in the distance. And I was just walking down the street. I just saw groups of people, and I saw mostly groups of Arabs, groups of darker skinned Eastern and Middle Eastern people. I saw tons of the headscarf wearing, just crowds of people eating, families enjoying themselves, and there was an excitement about them. There was children with them, and then I found out where the source of the noise was coming. It was just wall to wall, from tall building to the other tall building, shoulder to shoulder, far as the eye could see. Flags, signs, just a crowd. And I found the crowd, and I started videotaping, to show the media, is if people can go on my other video and look at that first video. I had issue with signal, and my second video had more issues with signal. That first video is okay, and you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. But I just started walking, and I walked from basically just a few blocks up from the White House, almost all the way to the Capitol building, and the crowd did not end. And I saw Iraqi flags, and I saw Iranian flags. I saw a Hezbollah flag. I saw all the different socialist organizations. handing out their papers and conversating. And I saw Mexican people with Mexican flags. And I saw immigrants from all different countries. And I saw hundreds of Jewish people marching in formation and full Jewish garb, fully in support of the Palestinian people and against the genocide that the terrorist Zionist regime is doing against them. And it was like finally, and every day on you hear on the media, you have to condemn Hamas. You got to condemn Hamas, you know. But you know what I saw there? I saw Palestinian organizations. I got a poster over there I might bring over here that said, as long as the people are occupied, the people have a right to resist. And just it was like the popular opinion of the masses of people that come out to something, support the Palestinians, that are supportive of the popular resistance, including Hamas. It just shows you how astroturfed and how much the media lies about what's going on over there and the opinions of the people within the United States are largely distorted and repressed to support these narratives, these genocidal, racist narratives that benefit the imperialists by having a foothold for imperialism within the Middle East to create chaos and instability to exploit oppressed people, just as just as Chicanos and Aslan are super exploited in the United States, as black people are super exploited. They keep bases of operations like Israel to keep the entire region of the Middle East in chaos and poverty, so they can. So first of all, they won't develop and make their own products and become dependent on banking systems and world global economic systems that the U.S. banking establishment control and steal people's resources. That's what about. But it was absolutely beautiful, and I was inspired. A lot of amazing chants, a lot of amazing people, great energy, man. Okay, I'll let you get back at it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So there was a lot to see and to take in. Just like you said, just the level of energy that was out there. And I want to say something like, if this demonstration doesn't show you that that you know that the government, that our American government is on the wrong side of history, then nothing will. Everybody, there are entire countries that have come out and condemned. Even the UN just passed a resolution saying that this was genocide and that this was ethnic cleansing. And I am so sick of hearing that, oh, Israel has the right to defend itself. I am so sick of that, because to what end? To what end? You're talking about, oh, they're defending themselves, but they're defending themselves against nobody. They don't. The people that where they're bombing, where they're killing. I think someone says, out of all of the bombs that they dropped, and by the way, they are using illegal white phosphorus bombs, which is illegal according to the UN and according to the Geneva Convention. You can't use white phosphorus. But where they're bombing, I think what the stat was, out of all of the bombs that they have dropped, they've only killed 13 Hamas members. These are 13 members of Hamas. So all that bombing that they've done, they've only killed 13 of them. If that, and again, that speculative. But they're telling the Palestinian people, go to the refugee camp, and then they're bombing the refugee camp. They're telling them to go to the hospital, then they're bombing the hospital. They're telling them to go to the Gaza Strait to get out of Gaza. Then they're bombing that. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not. They are trying This is a direct attack. This is ethnic cleansing. And the same people that were up in arms about Russia bombing hospitals in Ukraine, the same people that are up in arms talking about in the Russian occupation are the same people that saying we stand with Israel. Put the blue box up, put the blue square up, in support of Israel. These are the same people, and it's sickening.
I just want to clarify that there's no evidence of Russia bombing hospitals or any indiscriminate bombing whatsoever. That's simply projection what the United States does um, to other countries. But they claim they're bombing them. They're all worried about the Russians bombing, but they don't care about the Palestinian people being bombed. That's a great way to be it. And there happens to be Ukrainians are considered European.
Ukrainians are considered European.
Yeah. So let me say that. Yeah. Let me clarify that. There is no proof that the Russians bombed the hospital. Let me say that again too, because I know I said that, but we don't know.
Let's see. Unless there's something specific that you want to talk about, I think we've gotten most of the discussion. I'd like to go into a round of conclusions. Is there anything you'd like to add before I go into my conclusion?
And then I'll let you.
Go ahead. I have nothing else to say. Wait, are we going to talk about the other thing?
What else we need to talk about?
What else we need to talk about?
Okay, good. So before we go into okay, before we go into a round of conclusions, if folks want to look down in the description of this video, there's a link where you can buy a Kindle version of Musa's new book, which is called Revolutionary Theory, Race and Class, a collections of writings and political comment. I have the first editor's copy book, signed copy, that I had the privilege of buying from Musa when I was in DC. Please look down there for that link. I believe it's available on Kindle now, but it will be available in paperback soon. So before we go in the round of conclusions, tell folks about your book.
So it took me a little bit of time, but I really wanted to write this book. It's a collection of writings. It goes into so many different topics, from police brutality to climate change, from dialectical materialism and race to the reason why we need to end the occupation of Palestine. So it all is a running theme of race and class. You know what I mean? It talks about race and it talks about class. It's a good book. It's a short read, and it really is just I feel like it's a legacy to and like I said, this is it. This is something that I've always been passionate about, right? Race and class, because there's never been um, two similar things woven together in oppression. These are the two things that are people are most oppressed. From either their race or their class. You know what I mean? Or and sometimes both. But it's just a great book, and like I said, I had so much fun writing it. The work that went into it. Our comrade Al Suarez actually wrote the forward to the book. And yeah, it's out. The paperback version will be out this year, December 6th. And I'm actually going to have a virtual book signing, and are also able to pre-order books with me right now. I think you can, if add me on Twitter at Musa Mbe the writer 215. You can inbox me there, and I'll be able to get you a pre-order copy of the book. And I'm actually going to do Dust a favor. For Dust listeners only, I'm going to reduce the price of the book from $10.99 until $8.99 for the first week for only for anti-imperialist anti-imperialist America listeners only. So that's a deal only for Dust listeners. Because I always appreciate being on his show. He's always giving me the platform to be myself. So that's something I can give back to you guys. The book's already cheap. It's already $10.99. But for you guys on this show, I'm going to reduce the price to even lower. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be out buying this book on December 6th. The book will be $8.99 only for your reason. I think I'm going to get um, a link with a code, and I'll have that for Dust, so Dust can tell you the code, and you can use his promo code, Anti-Imperialist America, and you can get the book for $8.99.
All right,
All
cool.
right,
So I'm
cool.
gonna.
So I'm gonna.
Okay, let me put you. All right. So I'm gonna put a link to his Twitter on later on, so people can contact him directly. About buying that book, and this is Anti-Imperialist America. You want to mention that and try to get that discount on that. And I just want to say, oh, he's out. All right. Hopefully he'll be back. I'm gonna post a. Oh, let me check. I'm gonna post a link to his Twitter. Folks can mention here, get a discount on that great book. Also, Musa is a working class activist from. There we go. Anyways, the my friend here, author, commentator, organizer, journalist, is also a working class guy, an oppressed working class guy. And in Philly, which is a historic black city with an oppressed population that he's a part of, living in, organizing in, and has been doing this 20 years. And support our working class and oppressed activists, and get the book. So maybe I can go into a round of conclusions. Um, I think what happened in DC on Saturday that I was privileged to be a part of. 300,000 people, majority Palestinian organizations were core organizers, along with Answer. I think it shows 3 times bigger than the Stop the Steal march that the racist imperialists tried to pull on folks. 3 times, more than 3 times, almost 4 times bigger than the Trump bullshit. 300,000 people out there, families, energy. It was beautiful, and it shows that the people within the United States are no longer believing the lies of imperialism. They're no longer believing the racist lies that enable colonialism, super exploitation, national oppression. We're on the precipice of a new day where more people are believing in and are no longer afraid by the word socialism anymore. Where old lies and myths that this is the greatest country in the world, that it was a good thing that it was settled and it brought civilization or what have you. Indigenous people are standing up. Indigenous people are getting more recognition. People are becoming aware. It's a great time to be alive, as an organizer, as someone who cares about humanity and wants things to change. But at the same time, we're not going to get there only through demonstrations and protests. Movementism simply doesn't cut it. We actually have to build power. And building power means not just arguing with people on Twitter, Not just, having a YouTube and talking to your few group of folk. That's good. That's good. But you actually have to get out and get dirty and get in with the masses of people and talk to people that you might not agree with, you know, and serve them, serve the people, feed the people. But listen to the people. Think about, like, go to people in your workplace. What is the biggest job? What is bothering most people? We don't have health care. All right, we need to work towards health care. All these people want health care. I'm going to serve them. I'm going to build power and institutions to get people energized in order to get that health there and get that health care. Because what gets people involved in the movement and to build power, an organization that can build power and make a change and bring more people to it, are those real gains that we have to make on the local level. So we got to, we got to actually put the work in and build something concretely. And it's not a wave of demonstrations. It's not, the latest fad of what they're talking about on liberal media. It is a long, protracted mobilization effort of the people with lifelong comrades, that's going to take us forward. Brother Musa, I'll let you get the last word.
I echo everything that Dust just said, and I am just glad that we were able to be there together and to organize and to be around people and to have the conversations, because that is a really important thing, just to be able to have these discussions and be able to whether it was the Back is Black Coalition March or the Palestinian March, like you said, it's time for it's the time is ticking, and we are so close to pushing out colonialism, to stomping out colonialism in this lifetime, and that's something that I never thought we could, I would be able to say that, imperialism is dying out and people are waking up to the fact that they're no longer believing the bullshit lies. You know what I mean? They're no longer listening to their liberal media and saying, yes, that's true, and like I said before, this shows, if not anything else, it shows that Americans are tired of of all of this, of everything, Zionism, imperialism, racism, all of that shit, and they're now standing up and they're putting their bodies on the line, and only thing that we need now is to continue this, and I hope that it continues, and that I hope that it grows and it flourishes, and grassroots organizations do stuff in the community, and I hope that they are able to reach out and not only work with the Palestinian community, but all communities, to help really build and push the thing over the top. That's it. That's the only thing I gotta say.
All right. And as always, comrades, all power to the people.
All power to the
Right on. Thank you, everyone.